everybody, every brand, whether you're Pure Fishing and the Berkeley and Trilene brands that are, time tested, or Rapala or whomever, all the brands are looking for great content. So go bring us some content.
You have found yourself somehow at the Fishing Business Podcast, and I'm going to do my best to make sure you don't feel like it was a waste of time today, because I appreciate you investing time in us and listening to this. Today, we have the second part of a two-part episode with John Skrabo. John's president of Lure Lock. Lure Lock is a special tackle box company that has gel technology where they put gel into these tackle boxes so that when you put your tackle in, they don't move around, your hooks don't get caught up, your hooks don't get tangled. I think it's safer, and it's sure a lot more convenient. It's a really kind of a cutting edge technology, and John has brought this product to market and done a fantastic job in the last 3 years of growing the Lure Lock brand. John has a long history in the outdoors. He's worked for brands like Realtree Hunting. He worked for Bad Boy Buggies. He worked for Pradco, which I'm sure you all are familiar with the Pradco brand, Yum and Booyah, and a lot of those brands that fall under Night and Hail, that fall under the Pradco umbrella. And now, John also worked for Bass. That's how I knew him, for BASS. When I was there at Bass, John also worked there, and we were great friends. We are still great friends, and we talk all the time. And I thought it would be great to introduce you guys to him, because John, you'll see, John has a different take on everything. He's got a lot of energy, a lot of ideas, very creative and very smart. So we're going to pick up part 2 of our interview with John Skrabo from Lure Lock. Here we go, y'all. When I signed off last week, I told you guys that we were going to continue this conversation with John Skrabo from Lure Lock. I also told you that I had no idea where the conversation would go. Yep. And that's because, if you saw last week's episode, you know that with John, it can go in, the conversation can go anywhere, because his mind goes 1,000,000 miles an hour, and he's always thinking 5 steps ahead of everybody else. And I, also, John, I have to say that you are easily distracted.
Joe Higgins, the late and great Joe Higgins, our dear friend, who was vice president of Bassmaster, he said, Skrabo, you're too old to be prescribed ADD. Back in your day, it was ADDDDDD. But I said to Joe, all the bright individuals in the world, all the creative types have some sort of ADD, compulsive disorder, or whatever you want to call it. So,
no, I agree. I'm the same way. People say all the time that people always warn me that I'd have too much on my plate, and I'm like, I like having a lot on my plate. I like being able to kind of go from one thing to another. It just keeps me, I get bored easy, I guess.
Me too. I call it multitasking, right?
Yep. Same thing.
Right.
So you've had a lot of different roles. We talked about that last week. You've had a lot of different roles in the outdoors. If you were a person starting out, like if your son right now said, hey, I really want to work in the outdoor industry, and you wanted a career somehow, what would you recommend if you were doing it? What would you do different this time? Or what would you do? What would you start out trying to do?
Yeah, I would say, back in the day when I owned an advertising agency, back then we could do, catalogs and creative designs and public relations. And, a lot of the agencies back in the 90s, it was like a one-stop shop, right? You did the media buying, you did it all.
Right.
Event marketing, not today. I've got like 5 or 6 agencies. I picked the best of the best, right? I got the best PR agency, the best creative, the best website developers and social media guys. You know what I mean? And so what I would tell somebody starting out is find something that you're really passionate about and that you're really good at, because you can't be all things to everybody. Find that one thing and go narrow and go deep.
Right.
And pursue that, right?
Yeah.
So what I would tell Jordan, my 15-year-old, is every brand, whether you're Pure Fishing and the Berkeley and Trilene brands that are, time tested, or Rapala or whomever, all the brands are looking for great content. So go bring us some content. Bring us a social media platform in which, you can share the Lure Lock story to your, 50,000 friends. Hopefully most all are fishermen, or give us some A+ YouTube content that we can then push out to our platforms. Right.
Right.
That's where I would start.
I see. I agree with that. Now, and some people say, "Well, I don't feel like I'm good at video," and I'm interested. I'm eager to hear what you would say to that. But my take is always that you may not think you're good, but there's somebody out there that wants to hear what you have to say, and they want to hear it from someone like you.
Yeah, it's funny, Angie. We talked about in the first segment, newspaper. That's where everybody got their information. That, and then television, the nightly news, whatever. And fishing and hunting content on television with the Outdoor Channel and ESPN2. Remember those days?
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of fishing hunting shows. There's still some really good hunting and fishing shows, but people are getting their content in other areas, right? They're getting off of YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and wherever else, right? So what I would say is that is evolving. Where people are getting their information is continuing to evolve. I think the most important common thread, regardless of your platform, whether it's event marketing, television, print, even radio, right, a podcast, is entertainment. There has to be some entertainment value to capture the audience and keep the audience's attention. Then there has to be some really good educational pieces in there as well. Tips, how to, you found a great new frog design by whomever, by Booyah, for instance, right? So that's where the two kind of meet, where it's really valuable to a brand.
Yeah. How do pro anglers fit into the Lure Lock brand strategy and marketing strategy? Well,
first of all, we send them product, because I'm not interested in having a pro staff have a paid endorsement, paying him money to endorse our product. It doesn't work like that. So we send them product. We give them, kind of one of each, everything we have. We have more than 30 SKUs now in the Lure Lock lineup. Let them test it. Let them test it for several weeks, right? Let them test it in the rain, the snow, sunshine, heat, whatever. And if it fits, if it's a good fit with them and they genuinely love the product, then we'll talk about some sort of endorsement deal. But what our pro staff has allowed us to do quickly, overnight, we had assembled the finest, the best of the best, right? So we had the endorsement of the best pros, the best fishing guys in the world. So if it's good enough for Gerald Swindle, by golly, it's good enough for me, because Gerald has passed up dozens and dozens of endorsement opportunities. He only endorses in what he really believes in. And we're very fortunate that he really loves Lure Lock. So it gave us overnight credibility. And then the second piece of that is tapping into their social media platforms to help us spread the message. And, I hired a great videographer. We talked about Steve Finch, and he's done really fine videography with Red cameras and all the latest, greatest equipment.
Right.
Some of the best stuff is filmed by Gerald Swindle. He uses his iPhone, right? The grassroots stuff is the best.
Yeah. I think sometimes we get too caught up in, I have a television producer background. I worked for ESPN for a lot of years, but I think we get caught up in how it looks and it's got to be this great thing. Whereas most people that are looking at content online, they're not judging the production values. They're judging what you're talking about and how helpful it is to them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, again, entertainment, that's what makes Gerald so popular. Mm-hmm. Entertainment, and then how to. He'll tell you how to go catch a fish, in June when it's 95 degrees in Alabama, and how to fish a topwater bait or what have you. That's what we look for. So.
Right. So do a lot of people still come to you? Do you get like 10,000 letters a week from people wanting you to sponsor them?
Well, we get a bunch. You can go to our website, lurelock.com, and you want to become a pro. Okay, so tell us about yourself, right? There's not everybody's a Gerald Swindle or a Matt Lee or Brent Ayler or an Andy Morgan or James Watson or Alex. So we got some great pros, right? But tell us what's unique about you. do you go to trade shows? Do you go to consumer shows? How many tournaments a year do you fish? What's your background? And then we've got a vetting process, and the first phase is, okay, if they qualify, they can buy Lure Lock products at 50% off, or maybe it's a paid type of program or pro staff. So we have various levels of engagement.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's great. And so what do you look for when you're looking at someone's, not your pros, because the guys that work for you are all very polished. They know what they're doing in content and online and how they do their content. But if you're just looking through your social media feed, what do you think makes a good story from a pro? I mean, it doesn't even let's don't say pro. Let's don't say top of the line guy. Let's say a regional guy that has a smaller following, but is really good. And you see him, what do you see that makes him good?
Yeah. Well, most anglers want to know where to fish, right? There's a lot of water. Fishing activity was up 300% this last year because of COVID, right? But most everybody has a fishing rod and can find someplace to fish a mile from their house, right? Yeah. So most people want to know where to go, what time to go, and most importantly, what to use, and then how to fish with it, right? Yeah. Because tactics and technique and strategy is different in February in Alabama, for instance, than it might be in June, right?
Right.
So people are fishermen in particular, are always looking for the latest lure, paint scheme, how-to technique, and then where to go.
Right.
So that's a win.
I like that. How important are kids to your business?
Well, kids are huge. I mean, I told you a story when I was 8 years old. My dad took us fishing in Colorado and in northern California at the lakes and whatnot, and I mean, that's the future generation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would challenge everybody in our industry, if you have industry people listening to this podcast, they know this. We talk to each other all the time. Take kids fishing, right? Get more kids introduced to fishing at an early age. Get them off the Xbox and PlayStation or whatever they're called, PS4s. I'm not a video guy, but get them out of the house and get them outdoors.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that, this is my soapbox lately is the, fishing participation was way up in 2020. I expect it'll be up again in 2021. And, the American Sport Fishing Association, I think they think that between 11 and 14 million new anglers came into the sport of fishing last year. But it's up to us, all of us, and you and me and everybody listening to this, to engage those people and help them stay in the sport, because they're mostly very, very, very beginners. And we tend to be above that beginner when we talk, right? And when we talk online and we produce content, we a lot of times are above their heads because they're not trying to figure out how to make their crankbait run at 5 feet. They're trying to figure out what a crankbait is.
Yeah, and how to cast it without getting a bird's nest.
Right, yeah. And a lot of times how to fish off the dock.
Yeah, right. I mean, Jordan, his birthday party, his 14th birthday party last year, we had 25 kids. We had a fishing contest, a fishing derby, and we had a catfishing. Nothing wrong with catfish, right?
No, right.
It has great bass in it. So we had a bass tournament and then a catfishing tournament, which was interesting. Half the kids stayed up all night trying to catch the biggest catfish. So
that's great.
Yeah, the parents were real happy with me the next morning.
And I bet they all took home a nice Lure Lock box at the end.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, so if you get a chance to have a birthday party, why not have a fishing tournament, right?
John, what do you see up-and-comers? What do you see up-and-coming anglers doing right in terms of marketing that maybe the rest of us didn't do?
Yeah. Again, I think it goes back to we have certain characteristics of the brand, right? Mm-hmm. We want to have high moral, high character individuals representing our brand, right? We have morality clauses in our contracts. Happy to say in 3.5 years, we've never had one single incident of any angler doing anything wrong, mm-hmm. right? At least in the public's eye. Patrick Walters fishes the bass tournament is a great example.
Great guy, yeah.
Yeah, we sponsored him, I guess 3 years ago. and started small with small sponsorship. And he's a great spokesman. He's a young individual. He's a great fisherman, and he does a great job on his social media. So, I think the game has changed, right? I think what's different today and what is a better opportunity for young aspiring anglers today than what was when you and I were growing up is they have these huge social media platforms in which they can attract an audience and then engage with their audience. So we did a deal on Glamour Lock. I won't mention his name. Great guy, but he had, I don't know what it was, 2 million anglers. And we're like, 2 million followers. And we're like, this guy was on America's Top Model. Good looking guy. Let's engage with him. We signed a contract, and we didn't get very, very strong sales. At the end of the day, what the brands are looking for is they want engagement, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, swipe up. You can drive some sales. We can do a code with whomever. And we found out, though, at the end of the day, we didn't do our homework on the front end, that his engagement wasn't very good. Right. He had a bunch of young teenage girls that have no money that thought he was handsome.
Yeah.
So
engagement's important. I mean, sometimes the audience, your followers, your number of followers is important, but I think even more important sometimes is that engagement number, because you can have a bazillion followers, but if they're not engaged with you, they don't help you.
Yep. And back in the day, there's something called an Edgerank Score that Facebook uses, which measures that brand's engagement with the fans. It goes from 1 to 100. Right. Coca-Cola, Apple, BMW, all are very high. Mossy Oak, Realtree, they're all like 75-ish, which is very high. Well, we found a brand that had 2.5 million followers. Their Edgerank Score was a 6 because they were running coupons. Come to our store and get 10% off. That's not what their fans want to see.
No, that's not.
And we also learned a lot of the fans weren't really authentic fishermen. So
right. Hey, I do want to say right here, in case you didn't see part 1 of this interview, John has other brands that are similar to Lure Lock, and one of them is called Glamour Lock. And it's we explained earlier that Lure Lock is a gel technology that helps your tackle stay put when you put it in your tackle boxes. So you put your hard bait in and you put another one next to it. It sticks there. It doesn't move, and then when you pull them out, it doesn't leave a residue or a smell. I don't think, does it, on the bait?
That's a great thing about it. It's environmentally friendly, Angie. It's a soybean-based recipe that we use, and it really comes from soybeans in Wisconsin, and cool. That's where our home base is. And you could ingest it, although I wouldn't recommend it. But
you could.
Yeah.
But he also has on the Glamour Lock brand. That's more for women. That's probably women's targeted product for makeup and jewelry. Or is it just jewelry?
No, jewelry, makeup, compacts. I don't buy compacts, but I know you do and my wife does. And those aren't cheap, right? You go to Sephora, it's $52 or whatever for a compact. You drop it, that's the end of it. So our stuff will hold that compact in place, keep you organized when you travel, roll it out, and everything's right there where you put it.
Okay, well, and I'm also a painter. I paint. And I've told you before, you need to do it. You need to do one for artists.
I love it.
We have lots of gear too.
And I showed it too. You probably know Chris Hastings here in Birmingham. Who owns Fish, the Hot Fish Club.
Yep.
I showed
that
roll-up bag to him, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, great culinary application."
Yeah, absolutely. My nephew used to be his chef at Ovenbird. Have you ever eaten at Ovenbird?
I have.
Ovenbird's fantastic. If you're ever in Birmingham, you got to go try Ovenbird. It's a really neat restaurant. All right, we're going to take another quick break here. We'll be back in just a minute with John Skrabo from Lure Lock. Be right back. Do you know what your personal brand is? Because everyone has a personal brand. You may not be intentional about it yet, but all that you say or do or write or post contributes to how others perceive you, and that, my friends, is your personal brand. If you want to develop your brand and mean the things you want it to mean, I have a workbook that will help you get started, and it's free. You can download my Developing Your Personal Brand workbook at www.fishingbusinessschool.com/brand workbook. We're back on the Fishing Business Podcast with John Skrabo from Lure Lock, president of Lure Lock and longtime fishing industry professional, has done just about everything there is to do in the outdoor industry, hunting and fishing. But hey, I want to ask you a couple of quick fire questions here, John. All right.
Okay.
And I want like sort of your top of mind, just, tell me what comes to mind first. What does an angler do? One thing an angler does that makes you want to use them again, makes you want to work with them again.
He is a tremendous brand ambassador. He tells our story to his consumers about how to use his product. That's what I love.
Okay. All right. What is something in the about marketing right now in the current business climate that really lights you up and gets you excited?
A+ content in the form of videography.
Oh, okay.
Native content, just down and dirty, iPhone, filming yourself, doing something really cool that's highly entertaining.
Okay.
That's what I like.
Okay, I love that. All right, this one I can't wait to hear your answer. What's one trait you most like about yourself?
Oh, goodness gracious. There's so many things to like, Angie.
I know, it's true.
Well, here's what I like. So 15 years as an editor of fishing and hunting magazines. That's really what I did, right? Mm-hmm. After the newspaper stint, I said, you know what? I have one of the greatest jobs in the world, fishing around the world, literally, right? But I'm making $40,000 living in Los Angeles. How do I turn all my contacts into a business? That's when I formed Adventure 2, right? My advertising agency, and started making some decent money. Well, I like turning relationships, building a relationship and turning that into win-win business opportunities where you both prosper. That's what I like to do.
Yeah, you're really good at that. Okay, what's one thing you most like to see in people that you work with? One trait.
One trait. I really like the genuine. Everybody's built differently, right? I like a diversified portfolio, if you will. Not that people are part of their portfolio, but they are. Everybody is a brand. Yeah. Angie Thompson has a brand. John Skrabo is a brand. Everybody has their own brand, right? What are the characteristics of your brand? Bring that to me. Let's bring it to life. That's what I like.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because you're singing from my hymnal. I feel the same way. I'm like, we all are brands. If you put anything out, unless you're a hermit living at home, never talking to someone, then you have a brand, and you should be concerned about what your brand is, and you should care about what it is.
Look, I coach a 9th grade AAU basketball team. It's very competitive, right? I have this conversation with my basketball players almost weekly. You each have a brand. Watch what you say, watch what you do. Everything you say and do and how you act is a reflection upon your brand. It could take you, Angie, and me 40 years, 30 years, whatever, to build up a brand, right? What do you think when you think of John Skrabo? Well, when you Google my name, hopefully all good stuff comes up. There's nothing bad out there, right? One screw up, one bad decision can really hurt your brand. Be really cognizant of your brand.
And it's as simple as this. When my nephews were young and they were playing, baseball and little league, I would always say, when you come off the bench and you're going out there to right field, you hustle your butt out there.
Yeah.
Don't drag out there. You hustle out there, because you want the coach to see you hustle. Yeah, you want him to, when he thinks of you, you want him to think you're the guy that hustles out there and hustles back.
I've got 3 rules to my team. Show up to practice on time, give it 100%, and don't tell your mom I swear.
I love that. I'm sure they don't, but I'm sure they probably learned some new words.
Last year, I had one guy goes, Coach Skrabo? Yeah, Cohen. My mom knows you swear. Of course she does.
That's great. That's great. Hey, thanks so much for being with us, Skrabo. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you opening up and being so gracious with your advice and your insights. It means a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to our listeners.
Well, Angie, I love you like a sister, and many thanks for having me on your show. I wish you the best of luck, and I talk to you every week anyway. So we'll find like I keep talking about Joe Higgins. One of his great sayings was, Skrabo, and I'll say this, Angie, let's find something to do, even if it's wrong. We'll do it.
We can do that for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Next time, man. Next time.
Thank you, Ange. Bye-bye.
All right. That was it for John Skrabo and Lure Lock. I think we wrung just about every little bit of information out of him that we could. But he was great, wasn't he? I really enjoyed talking to him, and I hope you did too. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off this week the way my favorite fisherman in the world signed off every week by saying, "This is dedicated to Dad because he always had time to take me fishing." See you next time, y'all.